Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back and relax, and let's chat about what is going on up in the sky above us, including for today and tomorrow and Sunday. The new moon is on Sunday, of course. That's the big news for the weekend. In between times, though, we have a couple of interesting things going on that I think we'll all want to know. Oh my goodness, I just saw a picture of my daughter and granddaughter on Facebook. It just popped up in front of me. Oh, what a wonderful picture. Anyway, so I'm sorry that I missed you all yesterday. I'm trying to get back to the right video feed here. Yesterday I just needed a day. I couldn't organize myself out of that Mercury retrograde fog for love nor money yesterday. And I just had to finally give in and just go, okay, I'm not gonna go against the flow. I'm just gonna be in the flow. So I was feeling fine. I just had that moment of, I just can't do this, right? In fact, I just can't do this right, because I felt like everything was just topsy-turvy. And finally, I just went, okay, that's it. That's enough. Now, if I did that more frequently in my life, it would be probably something that would benefit me and benefit all of you, just to seeing someone else being able to do this, because we all have that time in our life where we're forcing ourselves into things. And while I'm not suggesting that we just, chuck all of our responsibilities when the mood strikes, I am saying that sometimes fighting and going upstream is more difficult, creates more frustration and more disappointment ultimately. So sometimes it's better just to say, okay, I give, I yield. And I did end up getting quite a bit accomplished yesterday. So it wasn't a bad day at all. It was just a day where getting up at 6 a.m. and trying to get myself together wasn't working. So here we are today. Oh, say hello to Sadie, everybody. She's decided to wake up for a moment and grace us with her side view. Sadie, kitty, kitty, look at us. Say. She's a cat. What can I say? All right. Well, let's dive in to what is happening today, and then we'll go on over to the new moon. And then once we're done with the new moon, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Pleiadian-Earth energy for today, not for the entire weekend, but especially for today. And then I want to get into some card readings, because last week we didn't get to do very many. So I don't want anybody to say I want a card reading yet, because if you do, it's going to get lost in the roll and I'm not going to know. So I will tell you when it's appropriate to say that you want a reading, so that I can do that for you. All right, well, let's begin with the moon today in Aquarius, right? One of my favorite placements for the moon, as it allows us to kind of engage differently in the world, to see things differently, to act differently, to awaken in some, beautiful ways, and allows us to do things that are different, out of the normal, right? So that is what the moon will bring us. We'll take a deeper look at Aquarius in just a moment, because the moon is also headed for a long void, of course, and that will happen tonight, 8:08 p.m. my time. So what is that, 11:08 p.m. for you all on the East Coast, and it will stay in the void until 10:37 p.m. tomorrow night for me, but Sunday morning for all of you on the East Coast, because it'll be 11:12, 1 a.m. before the moon breaks her void. So very long period of time. And I love this void, actually, because, sometimes, remember last year, it seemed like every time I was telling you there was a void, of course, moon, we were left with some kind of transit to Saturn or Pluto. And we're like, oh God, can we get rid of this long-term feeling of, having that melancholy or that, low energy? Well, now we're going to be left with a long void, with the last aspect being a sextile from the moon to Venus. And this is good energy, right? This, if I want to be left with something, I want to be left with a, a relationship or aspect, including Venus. So there we have that. That is that. And what that means for us is that we are able to engage more fully with self-love, with the things that we can be more compassionate to ourselves. We can more readily see what's going on in our relationships, and we might be able to more readily see even where we are out of alignment with self-love and self-compassion, where we might be offering that up outward to the world, but we are forgetting that we also deserve that. So it is a really good aspect to be left with. And then at the end of that void of course, the moon will move into Pisces, setting the stage for the new moon, which is really relatively early in the sign of Pisces at about 4 degrees of the sign of Pisces. So that will happen early on Sunday morning. Here for me, a little bit later Sunday morning for those of you on the East Coast. And UTC time, the new moon actually is occurring at about 3 or so in the afternoon. I will get to that in the new moon segment. But this morning, let's talk a bit about this moon in Aquarius and what can we expect. So anytime there's a planet in Aquarius, we can sort of expect that fringy sort of energy. I often think of, I don't remember if you guys watched a show. I think it was on regular TV, but now I think it's available on Netflix, and it was called Fringe. And it was a sort of scientific, psychic, sort of combination of those energies. And it was very fringe. It was very on the edge of the cusp, right? And it was really a fantastic show, and I was so upset when it was done. So today's energy is that quirky kind of fringy energy where we might be a little on the eccentric side. People around you may be a little nuttier than usual, a little more crazy maybe, or a little bit more able to see things differently. Maybe they're just more quirky. We'll leave it at that. The Aquarian moon also brings us into contact with more people in that it is a sign that is associated with friendships and with groups or networking. So groups that are networking, or groups that you belong to that are working groups, or groups that you belong to that might just be for fun, or even humanitarian type of altruistic groups. So we are more into that networking and coming together energy than we are in the more separate, I got to do this on my own kind of energy. And so all of our associations with friends, with colleagues and coworkers are all sort of coming together because we want to be more together. We're inclined to be more humanistic when the moon is moving through the sign of Aquarius. And of course, Aquarius, owing to Uranus as one of its ruling planets, has a thing about innovation and genius. So this is a day where we are full on in that innovative and inventive energy, where high tech is as appropriated. This is so funny, you guys. I live on an island, as you know, and my cell phone service is always very weak. If I have to stay on cellular, I can't even make a phone call, which means I can't get online. I can't do anything. So I always connect to my wireless internet. Well, I called T-Mobile the other day and I said, I'm tired of doing this because my internet went out last Friday and I was stuck here with no phone to be able to call anybody to say what is going on. So I went, okay, this is not a good thing. So I called T-Mobile and they said, okay, get a booster. And so they sent me the boost. I got it all connected. And it was flashing, like not working. I went down the street and talked to my friend Amy because she has one, and saw that I had it all connected correctly, but it wouldn't work. So 4 o'clock this morning is still not working, but I'm asleep. I don't know anything's going on. But my husband gets up and he sees that it's still flashing. And he's like, I got to do something different here. So he unplugs it, plugs it back in, and hits a restart button, which I didn't even know. I think I did know there was a restart button, but it didn't occur to me to do that. And he hits the restart button, and now the whole thing works perfectly. So no matter what, I now have the ability. I've got 5 bars, full cell service here. And it feels really good because then I'm not so isolated in the event that my internet goes down and I need cell service. So the only problem will be if the electricity and the internet goes down at the same time. Then I might have to hold my phone up in the air trying to get a signal, which is kind of funny. So technology, right? Sometimes it's just someone else's viewpoint, someone that can see things in a different way. It didn't occur to me to hit the restart button or to unplug it and plug it back in. Actually, I had done that already and it didn't work. But someone else comes along, they have a new idea, they exercise that idea, and voila, the whole world changes. So that is the kind of energy we have today, breakthrough energy, Futuristic ideas are also in abundance today, where we're looking down at the future and what might be. I was talking to someone yesterday whose mom has just been diagnosed with cancer, and I thought to myself, well, if this is a diagnosis that's happening in the now, the fact of the matter is, with Saturn getting ready to move in Aquarius, and then Jupiter will move into Aquarius, this is like that time when these innovations and these new experimental treatments turn into gold, right? Where things happen healing wise and in all different kinds of ways, all different technologies. So futuristic ideas, not so much out of sight or out of line when you have the moon moving through the sign of Aquarius. Now, Aquarius also has a sense of detachment, and this is aloof energy at times, where I think that the thing with Aquarius energy is they're very good at stepping back and becoming the observer of what's happening, as opposed to getting so emotionally into it, which can sometimes make them look like they're not very emotional to other people, or that they're not emotionally engaged. But in reality, this is just energy that is able to remain detached in some ways, to see, a different view. So while we have the moon moving through Aquarius, practice some of that objectivity. Practice some of that ability to step back and look back in and see things with new eyes, right? It's like putting on a pair of different glasses and seeing things differently. And while you're there in that detached state, take a look at the connections that you're able to see. Take a look at the threads that are connecting you to new ideas, to new people, to new ways of being. In fact, this is a great time for us to even see those energetic fields that we talk about, the morphogenetic field, that is, ringing our planet, that we all have access to, but that we don't always understand or accept that is there. So it's a great day for that. Uh, Aquarius energy is also a very humanitarian sign, and it works for the common good, or the good of the common human, right? Or good of humanity. So what is good for humanity is then what is good for each of us as individuals. So we have this champion of humanity energy for the next day or so here. We do have to watch out for a couple of things. Of course, every sign has its high positive and also its lower frequency energies that we might become aware of. And that is a feeling of being, with your heads up in the cloud, where you don't see that there's a rock in front of you and you trip and fall. Head in the clouds, right? Where you're so far into the future that you're not focused here in the now. And remember, there are co-rulers here to the sign of Aquarius. There is the ruler Saturn, that is the more traditional ruler. And now we have Uranus, who is the more modern ruler. But we didn't let go of Saturn as the ruler, right? So we have that double God Titan sort of energy going on in this sign, where Saturn, remember, is our anchor to the past, our anchor to the more practical, the more tried and true. And we have then Uranus, that is the rebel and creates a pathway to the future. So we have both the past and the future. There may be looking out in opposite directions. And here we are in the middle, where we can take the best of both and bring them in. So that is the high side of that energy. The low side is we're so up in the air or so looking out into the future, we don't, we forget that there are some things that we need to be grounded. Okay. Also watch out for stubbornness, for being rigid, being, that stuck in the mud. This is how it's going to be, and it's not going to be any other way. That will not work here. This is not the time to come down on that line that says, this is it. But it is a time for us to engage in the group or in what is good for all. And of course, thinking down the line, let's just look out into the future for a minute. That is the exact struggle that is going on here, at least in our country. And I'm guaranteeing it's going on in other countries as well. That struggle between the haves and the have-nots, the struggle between what's good for the 99% versus what's good for the 1%. And how do we work with both energies? How do we bring them together in some way? So as planets begin that move through later 2020 and on into 2021, and even into 2022 and 2023, when Pluto finally moves into Aquarius, we'll be dealing with what is good for all. And what does that mean? What does that mean in our governments? What does that mean in our institutions? What does that mean in our healing, in all facets of our lives, right? How do we become more humane? Speaking of that, so if you want to see the exact opposite of what is humane, I was reading a terrible article. Well, I mean, the article wasn't terrible. The situation was terrible, where people right now on subways or in, big cities are striking out at the people who look like they're from Asian descent because of fear of the coronavirus. So there was a story of a man that was yelling at a woman who was wearing a mask, telling her that she was the source of all diseases on the planet, that her race is the source of all disease. There's another subway issue that happened in Los Angeles. It's that is the very negative of this kind of energy, right? It's not what's good for all. It's the blame, the shame, the guilt that we're transposing out or transferring outward onto other people. And, that has no place in a civilized world, right? A disease is a disease. A virus is a virus. They always arise somewhere, right? And it just so happens this one arose in China, but it could have just as easily arisen here in the US, in Europe, in Australia. So let's all be kind and compassionate toward one another during this time and not get into that sort of xenophobia or fear of other because they might have a disease. It's terrible. It's sort of what happened with the AIDS epidemic, right? Where suddenly, it's all about the homosexuals and drug users and how they're causing, disease on the planet. And we've got to resist that if we want to move forward, if we want to evolve. All right, I'm going to take a quick look over at Facebook, see if there are any questions. How's everybody doing this morning? Marjorie, good morning from snow-covered sunny Virginia. What island do you live on? I'm from Oak Harbor on Whidbey Island. Marjorie, I live on Samish Island. And I'm very familiar with Whidbey Island. Coupeville is one of my very favorite places to go on Whidbey Island. And we get there as often as we can so we can cross the Deception Pass Bridge. And that's a gorgeous, gorgeous place and a gorgeous scenery. Good morning, Marissa. Glad to see you. And good morning, Sanala. And I'm not sure where you're from, but I love your name. Thank you for joining us and welcome. Good morning, Jacqueline Lopez. She says, OMG, yes, it started early this morning for me. There's some really, really good energies going on this morning as well that we should be very aware of. And yet they're kind of touchy, scritchy energies as well. So let's talk about that a bit. Right now, we have, right before the moon is going into the void, we're going to be dealing with some Mars energies for today. Mars energy is the action principle. Remember, Mars energy is in Capricorn right now. And Capricorn was that energy that was very much about goals and taking steps and making plans and doing things in a stepwise progression. So today, Mars is in a trine to Uranus, and Uranus is in Taurus. Mars is in Capricorn. So these energies work well together. So remember on my article that I posted up the other day, the 21st, which is today, and the 23rd and the 24th, so Sunday and Monday, are really good Mars days for us to engage in that imagining of something new and what could be, and looking at the bigger picture and also seeing the details, because we have both available to us at the moment. A side note, Pisces energy, where the new moon will be, Pisces has two rulers as well. Its rulers are Jupiter and Neptune. So we have that etheric quality and we have that Jupiterian optimism. So we have some really good energies for the next several days for creating, for moving forward with something, for laying a template. It's funny because as I always think of my life imitating what it is that I end up telling all of you, like it's a model or a template, if you will. And it's so funny because the other day I stumbled across a template that I can use in the courses that I'm developing for people in the membership, but also for the general public. And I was like, Where was this before? Because this makes my life so much easier, right? Templates. A template is really just a model through which you can go step by step, right? You can follow a plan, you can execute the plan. And in the end, I'm just so excited. I'm even showing my husband the things that I've been doing. He could care less, except that he knows I'm excited. So he takes a look at it. And it is that template that we are laying now, right? That we have the access to for today and on Sunday and Monday, that getting new information, getting feedback maybe from the universe or from people around you, and being able to set the tone for what comes next, right? The new moon is the time for starting anew, but we're able to right now really get in touch with that template for what comes next for us in our lives, right? So template could be just a word that represents what's really happening is the plan, right? The template. Capricorn or Mars, Capricorn, Uranus, Taurus come together. They're very progressive energies and they're very bold. This is energy that isn't afraid to really take off and move forward. It just needs to know that it has something to follow to get there. It initiates new ideas, new goals, and it is also a new phrase I'm going to bandy about a bit. That is deliberate genius. I yelled out to my husband this morning as I was preparing the day. I said, "Do you know that you are a genius?" And he's never really called that. I mean, this man does not read unless he has to. He's just not book smart. Where I'm book smart, I read, I get information, but I couldn't solve the problem of this, little technological thing. And so he's brilliant when it comes to thinking outside of the box and doing things differently and with crafting and all of that. So find your genius and then deliberately go out, set out to express it. That's that Mars and in a trine to Uranus energy. Find your genius and then deliberately engage it. That's Mars trine Uranus. At the same time that's happening, Mars is also squaring Chiron. Eek! So there's a little touchiness here. This is where the scritchy comes in a bit. There's that touchy feeling raw, maybe you've done something and you've set out to do something and it blew up on you, and maybe all that's in the past. So it scares you a little bit now that you might have to engage your energy in a new way, or you might actually have to go out there and be creative. But I also feel like you guys are up against a wall, right? The old isn't working. It isn't working anymore. You could keep trying to do what you've been doing, and you can keep trying to put out the work that you do in the same old way, but people ain't buying it. And they're not buying it because this energy is forward facing. It is about triggering the healing process of all of those old wounds so that you can go out and be bold and live your deliberate genius. So the gate 10, by the way, is where Mars is right now, through today anyway. And the gate 10, remember, it sits on the identity center, which is the center for love. It's a center for self-identity. It's the a center for lovability. And the gate 10 is the love of self. The love of self. So Mars is taking us right now into an expression of the love of who we are. And the love of ourselves then allows love for others, right? It's one of those things where if I don't love myself, how can I possibly love another? So offering up unconditional love to yourself, to your deliberate genius, and living from that, as opposed to the narrowed version, which is where we don't like ourselves, we don't love ourselves, or we're always being negative about ourselves. So Mars taking us through that lesson right now. So what I see between Mars and Uranus here, and then also the moon in Aquarius, and the potential even for the new moon, is that Mars is creating pathways for us to awakening and also to healing. So Chiron is the healing factor. Uranus is that pathway of genius and awakening, and they're working together right now. So you might feel really good about, what the future holds for you. Take that feeling and put it to a plan so that you can execute that plan. So that's the energy mostly that we're dealing with today. I'm going to go take a look quick back at Facebook, see if there's any questions here. Jacqueline, my Wi-Fi went out now on my phone. Just as we talk about it, right? You froze. Maybe it's my connection. Who knows? But hopefully I'm back now. everything looks green on my end, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm the Gemini here, and Mercury in retrograde squares. Mercury in Pisces retrograde is squaring my sun in Gemini. So yay. Yay for me. But it's not a bad thing. It's just whatever it is, right? Okay, now let's see. Before I go over to the new moon, let's talk a bit about the Pleiadian-Earth energy for today. Today is 9 self-regulating. Self-regulating is the earth energy, while 9 is the universal energy. So remember, the universal energies are universal, just that, right? They are affecting all life forms. If we were living on Mars, we would be affected by that energy, right? The fact that we're on Earth, though, puts us into connection with self-regulating energy, which in the Mayan calendar was Etznab. And Etznab represented the karmic mirror. And it was the reflection of ourselves that we see in the outer world and in other people that we are in relationship with. So what you see out here is then a representation of what is going on within. So the number 9 is the number of harmony. Here is where this number 9 seeks to take all of that evolutionary energy that you've experienced in your spiral of consciousness, right? Or in your spiral of conscious evolution. And it seeks to take all that accumulated information, all that accumulated experience, and to put it toward harmonizing everything. So we even right now, if you just look back over your own life, in this moment, look back to where you were a kid, look back to as you were growing up and your first relationships and your first big failure and then your first big successes, whatever order that happened in. And with a 9-day, you get a sense that you can look backwards and see how all of that has brought you to where you are and how it's all right and perfect. Right? We can see how all of those experiences are interconnected with what it is that we're experiencing right now. You can't help but see that with the 9, right? The 9 energy seeks to allow even discouragement and disappointment in your life to lead you to acceptance of what is, and how even failures, epic failures, maybe divorce or, getting fired from a job or, being sick once really bad, can lead you to the realization of what is going on right now, because it's all interconnected. So seeking that interconnectedness from all of your experiences and letting them lead you to healing, to acceptance, to love, to self-love. We get to use that word again. Also leading you to more and more of being your authentic self, right? That's what all of this is about. Now, self-regulating brings us back into the flow of energy, by literally allowing us to there's the accepting of ourselves, but to be able to self-correct. Self-regulating, self-correct, I guess those are kind of related terms, right? So what you see in the mirror of your relationships is something that is really meant for you to look at within you. Seeing what's going on in the outer world, also something better for you to look at within you. So why am I seeing this, right? These are the questions we can say. What does this remind me of? Why is this happening again? Because especially if it's a repeating pattern in your life, self-regulating is in play, right? So this is a time for you then to reflect on what it is you're seeing, or what it is that life is showing you. And I wanted to read you this morning a bit from the Pleiadian-Earth energy astrology book. This is the book that I got along with the calendar. So it is the more astrological information. But I wanted to read this to you because the Pleiadians themselves channeled, well, let's say, I'm not sure how to put that. They transmitted this information to Pia and to Cullen to put here in this book. And it's Larkma, which is the name of the group, speaking on self-regulating. Okay. By the way, this is on page 136 and 137 in the book, if you have it already. It says, it separates, self-regulating separates truth from illusion, delineating true reality. This energy brings a rather poignant and deep glimpse of the reality that comes through focused intent and synchronistic linking in a telepathic manner between yourselves and others in the universe, and allowing things to flow as they should. This energy compels you to speak the truth and flow with what is happening moment by moment. So the other thing that the Maya, besides this being karmic mirror, also saw this as the obsidian knife, and the ability of the obsidian knife to cut through to the truth. So on a day like today, it's our ability, and we should all be using this to tap into and cut to the truth about what's going on within us. Not as a way to beat yourself up or make yourself wrong or bad, but to give more compassion to yourself and to see yourself with bigger eyes, right? Or from a higher perspective. So it's a really good energetic day, but it can also be a trigger. We have Mars squaring Chiron. There can be some wounding triggers that come up. There might be some touchiness that you have, right? Something raw within you that gets triggered. And how can it heal if it isn't triggered, right? So being able to see more clearly in the mirror what is happening in your life and how it is that you can move through that into healing. All right, going back again really quickly. Jacqueline says, weird, there's a helicopter around me. Maybe it messed up my Wi-Fi. Could be, who knows? Good morning, Monique. Good morning, Debbie Tibbetts Tumiel. She says, dang, four. Jacqueline says to Marissa, we must have some strong energy coming in. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So now I am going to go backward. There was something. I'm going to bring up the new moon chart. Bear with me here for a minute. I got to go back to Zoom and share my screen. Hopefully I had that. Nope. Hold on. Can't share yet. And there it is. Okay. Now I can do it. There we go. So now you should be seeing the screen for the February 2020 new moon, right? The new moon occurs on Sunday for all of us, basically here on this side of the earth. I'm thinking that for Australia, it's going to be the next day, Monday. It is 7:32 a.m. here in the Pacific Northwest, or in the Pacific time zone, not just the Northwest. It's 10:32 on the East Coast and 3:32 p.m. for those of you in the Universal time zone. And this new moon is occurring at 4 degrees of Pisces, so very early in the sign of Pisces. And I'm going to give you a code, a motto, I don't know what else to call this for this particular new moon, and it's the presence of God. If you don't like the word God, it's the presence of spirit, the presence of God, the presence of spirit, the presence of goddess, the presence of a higher power, whatever word you want to put in there, make it suit it to you, right? The presence of a higher power, right? Something else that is moving within you. So this Pisces new moon is allowing us to cement that relationship, or to begin that relationship. First, remember, a new moon is about initiating energy. It starts a new cycle. So we can enter into things, we can initiate things, but we also must remember that Mercury is in Pisces as well, in retrograde. So what we start might be more of the inner journey that we must take in order to make the outer world change for us, right? That inner work then begins the evolving of the outer world. So great time for that inner journey that you've got to take. Now, what does Pisces represent? Because there's a lot of different things that we could look at with Pisces energy. One is all of the imagination types of energies, those things that we might think of like fantasy and imagination and dreaminess. That then can also bring up the more negative expression of confusion, sleepiness. We might feel very tired. If you're feeling really tired, really fatigued, you know for certain your body is begging you to go inward, right? To get more into that spiritual connection for healing and for loving and for correcting what's been going on in your outer life. If you are experiencing chaos, that is also a call from your outer world, from what you're seeing in the outer world, that there's chaos going on inside of you. Pisces new moon, helping to find a solution through meditation, perhaps through yoga, through prayer, through just quiet contemplation that can help you move through that more confused state that happens. The sign of Pisces also is engaged with joyful states, bliss, eternal and internal and external happiness. The concept of universal love, right? That bigger kind of love, the unconditional love, the love that just is the natural order of the universe. You guys understand that, right? That the natural order of the universe is love, not hate, not division, not separation, not all of that ugliness. That's created when we've forgotten that our world is based in love, that we were love first, right? We were love first. And that we never lose that. We just forget that. So this is a time then for us to remember that connection to love, that connection to spirit, that connection to bliss and happiness. We're also more psychically sensitive during Pisces energies. So the new moon takes us to the potential maybe of learning how to tap into more of our intuition, to our more mystical states that we can get to. Maybe it's through lucid dreaming. Maybe it's through oracle cards. Maybe it's through astrology. Maybe it's through just plain psychicness, right? Just knowing that you don't know how you know, but you know. So we have a lot of opportunity during the new moon in Pisces to connect with that sixth sense, if you will, and also to find ourselves being more sensitive emotionally as well. This is a water sign. So we may find ourselves more gentle, more compassionate, more loving, more gentle with not only others, but also with ourselves. And if you're having trouble with that, that's a great intention to set with this new moon, to be able to find that inner gentleness, that inner lover of yourself. This is also a connection to our higher power, especially when we are in a state of surrender or a state of trust that all is moving in the right and perfect way, even if it feels like you're being blocked. Even if it feels like, wow, I just can't do anything today. So I'm just going to sit. I'm just going to do whatever it is that I can do today. And following that, trusting that, being spiritually aware, right? Aware that you're forcing something, and that this would be more of a time to surrender, to let go and let God is another way that we can look at that. To channel your spiritual power, right? To bring it in, to open up. This is a great time to open up that crown chakra and allow that beautiful spiritual light and energy and healing just to come into your body and to just bathe you and brighten you, bringing more light to your DNA, if we want to talk about that in Gene Keys terms, right? That's what this can do for us. So surrendering, trusting in a higher power, spiritual healing. Also, don't forget, we have attached, we incarnated with help. We're not here just, alone and flailing all by ourselves. Besides the people that you have in your physical life, you also have helpers in the unseen realm, your angels, your guides, your fairies, or whoever you connect with. It might even be your ancestors, grandparents, parents, maybe even further back, great grands, that are your spiritual helpers. So you are never alone, right? Even if you feel lost and alone or lonely, you always have your angels, your guides, and your ancestors clear right here. They're just unseen. So the unseen realm, and trusting in that unseen realm. Meditation, yoga, I think I already brought that up. Another way to enact spiritual healing, to bring more peace and more gentleness and compassion to yourself. And again, Pisces energy is all about universal love. The planet Neptune and its rulership of the sign of Pisces brought to us that awareness that there is something more that is unseen, yet it's also within us. So our connection. And in that, then we have understanding of every but thing that's happening and everybody around us, more forgiveness and tolerance and acceptance. Remember that story that I told you that I read in the news about people who are trying to blame Chinese Americans for bringing up the coronavirus? I mean, it seems so illogical. It doesn't even, it's not even, there's no logic to it. This is just where we don't have tolerance. It's showing us where we're not understanding the nature of the world that we live in, that we are needing more and more forgiveness. So the fact we can see that out there, you've got to check in with you and go, where's that within me? Right? Where am I holding some intolerance and need more acceptance? This is non-judgment energy, is the energy of oneness, where all things are one. And so it's a wonderful energy for creating more of that unity and more of that oneness. And of course, if we're going to do that, we need to release victimhood. So some of the more negative energies that come up through Pisces is about being defeatist, right? Taking on attitudes of that victim or that martyr or that savior that we need to move through. We have to let go of procrastination. And this is also a sign where we see addiction, right? That escapist tendency where this is such a harsh world that we have nothing to anchor ourselves to love or to forgiveness and tolerance, that we end up escaping through drugs and alcohol or sex or gambling or TV or you name it, whatever addiction that you have out there, food. And here is a victim state of disappointment and disillusionment, deception, self-deception, but also how others are trying to deceive you or how the outer world tries to deceive you into forgetting who you really are. So this new moon is so powerful in bringing all of that back to us, letting go of that victimhood. Now, if you're also having issues in your physical body, Pisces, as any sign does, has rulership over a specific part of the body or a specific function in the body. And isn't it interesting that Pisces energy rules viruses, rules colds and bacteria and toxins, and has poisoning, and how your atmosphere, both outside of you and inside of you, can poison you. And so we are able to maybe set in some intentions about cleaning up, purifying ourselves inside. And the lymphatic system is also ruled by Pisces. The lymphatic system is connected to your immune system. It is the lymph in your body that is, generating the white blood cells that help clean your body of toxins. And so that's ruled by Pisces, as well as the feet. Interesting, when I started noticing one time I was having issues with walking because my feet hurt. And I went, first thing I did is I looked at what's going on in Pisces. And I can't even remember what it was now. I think it was when Mars was moving through Pisces one time. And I went, I should probably make sure that the shoes I have while I'm walking are the correct ones. Sure enough, just a quick change of shoes allowed me to be more comfortable walking. And then, of course, afterwards as well. So the body is always talking to you. And when it's talking through Pisces, it's talking about your feet, your immune system, and whether or not you have yourself in a toxic environment, or are you imbibing toxins, and what steps do you need to take then to purify that environment and your body. So, okay, that gives us all the things that are about Pisces energy, but what connections is this new moon making? And by the way, here's Pisces. If you can see my marker moving around here, here's Pisces in your chart. Looks like two parentheses back to back with a line across it. Find Pisces in your own astrology chart, and it will show you the house where 4 degrees, here's 4 degrees. You see the symbol of the sun and the moon right on top of one another. And it may not be if you're looking at a current chart, but if you pulled up your own new moon, you would see these two at 4 degrees, 29 minutes of Pisces, and very close to Mercury in retrograde. So now we can further define and refine what the new moon means for us by looking at the connections the moon is making. And the closest connections the moon makes, the moon and the sun make, are a sextile, a 60-degree relationship to Uranus over here at 3 degrees of Taurus, and another sextile to exact Mars at 4 degrees of Capricorn. So here we have these two wonderful pathways opened up for us that we just talked about that were in the energy that's even triggered today. So we have an entire weekend where the pathways to awakening, to revelation, to aha, to conscious evolution are open. And the new moon really solidifies that for us, that pathway, as well as a pathway to healing. And it may not be Chiron that's sitting over here, but Chiron was also triggered by the moon today. So we still have that healing energy, that pathway to healing available to us through setting intentions, right? Through getting ready to manifest what we truly desire in our world and not what we've just settled for over the course of time. And it is also interesting to note that there is a connection to the moon, to Chiron, Black Moon Lilith, and to Salacia, which we don't know much. I don't know much about Salacia at this point in time. But here's the Black Moon Lilith, here is Salacia, and here is Chiron. They are all at 3 degrees of Aries, while the moon and the sun conjunct at 4 degrees of Pisces. So they're forming a 30-degree relationship with one another, which is called a semi-sextile. So 30 degrees is not necessarily energies that work with one another very well. So that's why I think there's still maybe some tension, some kind of feeling like there's a need for healing, that maybe some triggers are coming up for us during this new moon because of that semi-sextile to Chiron and Black Moon Lilith in particular that are also involved with this new moon. So it may be actually the impetus, that it may provide the energy or the impetus for us to want to make changes within ourselves, right? To finally let go of the bullshit that we've been telling ourselves for our whole lives. So out of that feeling, that rawness, right? The trigger that maybe is frustration or an emotional reaction that we're having, that's kind of there just under the surface. It's not like out in the big wide world and you're going, oh, it's so obvious. It's just something small, maybe something just like a burr, like a rock in your shoe that's just teeny tiny, but every step you take it, you feel it. So we may be feeling that in some ways during this new moon, but it could be used as a way to provide impetus for us to change and to heal, to move through it. So it's a pretty awesome new moon. When I cut down to the chase, this is really about the presence of that spiritual entity that is you, that is God, that is whatever you want to call it, that is allowing us to really see ourselves clearly, to use energies like self-love, to find internal happiness and bliss, to know that it's not something outside of us that can give that to us, that we have to find it within, and that it's always there. And this new moon also allows us to move through that victim energy wherever it's showing up in your life. It's a cool new moon. I really like this one. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a minute, and I'm going to go back to Facebook, see if people have questions, and then we'll do some readings. So this is a time for you to start heading out or typing in, I want a reading. Jacqueline says, my Mars is 8 degrees, Lilith 8 degrees, Pallas 19 degrees, and my MC is in Pisces, also at 0 degrees. So I'm guessing this will affect these aspects emotionally. Yes. And of course, this is your 10th house, you're saying, basically. So the 10th house is your house of claiming your authority and living authentically in the outer world. So having to clean the clock inside so that it is a reflection in your outer world of your true worth and your true value and the true expression of the gifts you would have, you want to give to the world. All right, I'm going to start it. Here comes Debbie, and here comes Monique, Debbie TT and Monique. Monique Alexander. And then let's also, Jacqueline says, oh my. Okay, Marissa, everybody's popping up and it's going too fast. Marissa and Mimi, animal card. I also unwrapped the goddesses in a better way, so I can access them. So Marissa wants a goddess or Woto. Marissa, you're going to get goddess because I just felt like that already for you. Monique, let's see, Marjorie says, great teaching. I'm attending 2 new moon meditations. My Chiron is 0, house 3-4. We'll definitely listen to the replay. Definitely. Tom, goddess card. Tom. Okay. Now, so that's 5 of you. So let me start on that. I will check back and take a look at others that might have wanted a card. Jacqueline, a collective card for my Astro fam, if you have time. You're so humanitarian. You're so good. Okay, a collective. So we may do that too. Okay. Yeah, I got that, Tom. Thank you. Debbie Tippett's 2 meal. I'm going to pull you a goddess card, girl. You didn't actually say, did you? Or maybe you did. I don't know. Maybe I missed it. So I might have missed what you wanted, Debbie. But I feel like I need to pull a goddess card for you. And I'm going back to Zoom so I can make sure that I'm showing the card in the screen for everybody. So let's do goddess, Debbie. Debbie. I'm going to mix this deck up. Are you guys hearing the music in the background from here? I'm just curious because I can hear it. And a few seconds ago, there was a song on that I know all the words to. So I was singing it in my head while I was trying to talk. It was pretty funny. Debbie gets Kuan Yin, and she came out in the upside down mode. So there we go. Right side up, Kuan Yin. She's a beautiful card. She is teaching compassion. So there's compassion in this card, number 26, which is an 8, which I always think of 8 as that inner power, that goddess power, that God power that we have within us. So let's take a look at Kuan Yin, number 26, 26. I don't think we've had her before. Of course, this is a fairly new deck for me too. So Debbie, because she was upside down, this is an alignment message for you. So in alignment, she says, are you feeling overwhelmed by all the suffering in the world and you can't imagine how you could make a difference? Do you feel hopeless over how we treat nature and each other? The goddess Kuan Yin knows that this is an important time of reckoning and reordering, but wants you to be careful not to fall into a pit of despair. If you allow the media to fill your mind with a constant barrage of what's wrong in the world, you will become numb and unable to move. The good news is in your alignment task, first, focus your mind locally. Your choice is not to save the world, but to bring your attention to where you can help. Even the smallest step toward a greater compassion is huge. Educate yourself about cultural issues and be better and more conscious and sensitive about your choices. Lend a helping hand to someone in need, volunteer your time, and choose one act of random kindness daily to help alleviate suffering. Do what you can and make that count. Always ask in your work, your relationships, and in your community, how will what I do serve others well? Remember, if you don't get it right, you can always course correct. With commitment, you will add more beauty to the world. Everyone is learning right now, and Kuan Yin reminds you to be kind to yourself too, as you accept your role in birthing a new world into being. I just want to say that's likely for all of us, right? So it's really hard right now in the outer world when things seem so messed up. And, you know, people's actions out there just defy any kind of sensibility. So I can understand why something like that would come up. Okay, Debbie, that was for you. Next, Monique. And Monique, I'm going to check back just to see if you were able to put in there what kind of card you wanted. You're not hearing music. Thank you for that. So if I break out singing, which I've been known to do, you'll know why, because somehow the music is still on in the background. Okay, so Monique doesn't. I'm going to do a goddess card for you, I think, too, Monique, just because you are a goddess yourself, right? So let's pull that goddess energy in. All right, so Monique, and then Marissa. This one is Monique. I don't think we've had her either. Her name is Epona, Wise Leadership. And she's card number 14. She looks pretty fierce, doesn't she? Epona. And she's holding, it looks like she's holding a heartstone or something. So let's see what that card, 14 is a 5. So that would bring some kind of change, perhaps, 14. And she was upright, so she's giving us an empowerment message for you. So stepping into the world with a sense of surety and positive self-worth is what's called for now. Epona, the Celtic or Roman horse goddess of leadership and guidance, offers you her wisdom. Know that what you have is, know that you have what it takes to heed it. You can do anything you place your attention on, and you'll find it easy to accomplish what's needed for your intentions to take form. Wow, this is really powerful in the shadow of a new moon, isn't it? Whether you are aware of this or not, the way you manage your accomplishments and even the way you handle failures and losses is modeling the way forward for others. There is a wisdom growing within you. Being true to you and placing integrity and humility equal to enthusiasm makes you a wise leader indeed, one that the goddess Epona is so proud of. That's a fabulous card, Monique. So be the leader. Marissa also would like a goddess card. So we're on a goddess roll this morning. And this is for Marissa. Marissa has Freya, which says radical acceptance. And she came out in an empowerment direction. So she's upside down. But if we look at her upright, look at her, Freya, a Norse goddess. And she is number 15, which is a 6. She's just beautiful. Freya says radical acceptance. So let's see what that message is for you, Miss Marissa. 15. Okay. And the alignment message, because it was upside down. Failure and disappointment are part of life that few want to accept. Perhaps a job you want doesn't come through. A lover you thought was the one betrays your hopes and expectations. Or maybe your kids are acting out. Maybe a long-term creative project didn't yield the success you so dearly hoped for. Or perhaps you were hurt by someone for no apparent reason. Goddess of War and Radical Acceptance, Freya, says, have no fear. This is only temporary. Now is not the time to linger in perceptions of low self-worth. Your alignment task is to accept the truth wholeheartedly and see your situation exactly for what it is. She will bring you to a place of surrender where you have time to heal. Freya knows that you will emerge stronger and wiser. Only good will come out of this. Trust the goddess Freya is watching over you. She is gorgeous. I could look at her for a long time. She has a light shining out of her. So that's for you, Marissa. Self-acceptance, radical acceptance, and radical self-acceptance, I guess, goes with that too. All right, Mimi would like an animal card. So let me get that deck opened up here. And I love the animal cards. Of course, I love animals. Oh, this one jumped up. Oh, okay. Yikes. This is for you, Mimi, skunk. And it says, know your worth. Card number 24, or is it 54? 54, which is a 9. Know your worth. Isn't she cute? All right. Let's see what that means for us. I don't think we've gotten that card before. So it's good that we get to see what skunk spirit brings. And it was right side up too, by the way. It says, know your worth, Mimi. What do you value? What do you believe in? Is your best, most authentic self on display? Skunk spirit comes as a reminder that you can be proud of who you are and what you have accomplished. Know your worth. Not everyone will agree with you or share your values, but you can walk with your head high, knowing that when you express your integrity, others can feel your authenticity and will be inspired by it. Be who you are, and if your reputation precedes you, good. You have much to be proud of, and skunk spirit wants you to be your best self, the true you. So ultimately, the skunk gives you a great message. Okay, and after Mimi was Tom, and Tom wants to have a goddess reading, a goddess card. So Tom, here we go. And then I'll check time-wise. It's already 9. Wow. Although, according to Facebook, I could be live for 8 hours. That's weird. Okay, Tom, you have a twofer. You have 2. You have, whoa, 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 whoa. These 2 came out together for someone else last week, or maybe the week before. I don't remember. This is Mama Killa The moon, card number 32. And you're going to love this one because I know what's going on with your mama. So you have Mama Killa right side up, and she says the moon. It just says the moon. And then you also have Mama Kocha, who is upside down, and she's water. So here are both cards, Tom, so you could take a good look at them. Mama Kocha and Mama Killa. Do you think you're dealing with mama energy? So I'm going to make sure she's upside down so I can read this correctly. So here's your story. Card 32 is the Mama Killa. Mama Killa. Okay. And here's an empowerment message because she was right side up. So Mama Killa, the Incan goddess of the moon, presides over the power of cycles and seasons. The moon rules the night sky, returning full 13 times in a year. The ancients marked time by the moon to know when to plant, when to harvest, when to store food, and when to celebrate fertility. Right now, you are invited to see what is familiar and decide whether you need to improve on it or leave things as they are. The answer to your inquiry can be found in the timing of things and the cycle you're in. You can apply the idea of natural cycles to relationships, creative projects, personal growth, and more. If you are honest with yourself, you will see there is no way to control these cycles, only to use the creative energy they offer to help you. If your relationship is unclear yet brimming with potential, you might turn to the new moon energy that shows up in the spring cycle of life. In that case, you just need to allow the relationship to grow naturally and be clear in your intentions. When your outer world seems to be slowing down, with obstacles rising up and temporarily blocking your every move, do not put up a resistance. Instead, take advantage of the need to rest and recalibrate your intentions as you wait for the cycle to change. No matter what, like the cycles of the moon, there is divine order in everything that is happening in your life right now. Once you know this, the goddess Mama Killa welcomes you to her divine moon dance of co-creation. Okay. Then you also had an alignment message from Mama Kocha. And Mama Kocha, she's also an Incan goddess. So two Incan goddesses, and she represents water. Overwhelm and empathy overload has opened up a tidal wave of emotion that feels like it is threatening to engulf you. Feelings are unruly now, and you may discover that it's difficult to control them as you project their shadowy fears onto the screen of your life. The goddess Mama Kocha says your task now is to detach, step back, and allow your feelings to pass through you like water without judgment or disapproval. Let your fears be washed away with self-love and understanding. The world can be a chaotic place, and uncertainty can create instability where people will act out in incomprehensible ways. Move to higher ground, say no to engaging, and wait. Now is the time to feel ready rather than react in the heat of the moment. Let the goddess Mama Kocha's waters of life hold you up and surround you like the fluid did in your mother's womb. Let love be that water. Wow, Tom, those are some powerful messages. Two mama goddesses. That's just too amazing and so synchronistic, I think. Tom says Incan thinking. I love it. Incan thinking. Jacqueline says that one sounds awesome. Mimi says I have gotten this card before. I actually love Skunk's message. Thank you. You are so welcome. Monique says, thank you. And I don't know if there were others, but we're getting to the end of the show here. But I do want to draw a collective card. And now Jacqueline, I can't remember which collective one you wanted me to draw. So I'm going to draw two. I'm going to draw one that's from the goddess deck and one from the animal deck for us to take forward for all of us into the new moon. How's that? Sounds like fun to me. And so the goddess I'll pull first for our new moon, our collective message for the new moon. And this one is, I don't even know how to say her name. Anemazine. Let me show you her. She's beautiful though. So I got to go back to Zoom so I can make sure I'm showing it in its best. Anemazine. and she's representing the past. The past. She is a card 36, which is the 9. Maybe it's MNE. Here, I'm going to look her up first before I pull the other card, guys, because now it's driving me crazy. Okay, it's Mnemosyne, Mnemosyne. She's a Greek goddess. Okay, so I'll read about that in just a moment. The card there. And then the animal card that takes us into the new moon. The animal for the new moon for all of us collectively is antelope and eagle. We got 2, and they are both upside down. So antelope and eagle, if you look at them right side up, I see a lot of these guys. I don't see many of these, but antelope spirit and eagle spirit. Eagle spirit says spirit has your back, and antelope spirit says life is speeding up. But they were both this way. So let's take a look at what these cards mean for us collectively. And let's first start with the goddess we pulled. Here is Mnemosyne. And she is a very interesting looking goddess, don't you think? With all that pink in there and feathers, it looks like. So let's see what this says. There are certain moments within your personal history that hold great treasure for you now. When you examine your memories, which are the domain of the Greek goddess Mnemosyne, empowered wisdom is revealed. The lessons you find are like sacred talismans contained within your past, like fossils in amber. Right now, you can trust your instincts that if something brings to mind your past, it indeed has a kernel of the old in the new. This is an amazing opportunity to make informed choices and do things differently. The goddess has another powerful message for you. There are many choice points in life when you have the power to make beautiful changes and become more creative, empowered, and alive. Yes, sometimes memories that live in the cells of your body will trigger palpable fear, right? That's that Mars square Chiron. But you can move beyond your past to discover new territories, and a new vision of freedom will come to you. You won't see the past the same anymore as wisdom replaces numb acceptance. The memories will change because you've changed. This freedom is gained by willingness and curiosity. Relationships become rich with potential, and all your natural choices will no longer fall into old patterns that are not serving you. The goddess Mnemosyne wants you to experience this miracle. And I just want to remind you that the sun this week is in the gate 55, which is all about freedom. Freedom. Okay, so that is our goddess card. Let's take a look at our animal spirit guides for the weekend and for the new moon. First, let's deal, which one came up first? I think it was antelope, which is card number 2. And antelope's message in reverse is a protection message. Do you feel how fast the world is changing? Like everything is moving at warp speed. It's hard to control desired outcomes or set fixed goals because by the time you get there, in quotes, you will actually have moved beyond it. Now is the time to let go and enjoy the exhilarating ride as intentions you have set in motion in the past are coming into form with lightning speed. Your job is to stay the course, even if that pace feels dizzying. You may find you will change your mind a half dozen times or more as you improve your offerings, and that is just fine. Make peace with the pace, for if you ride this quickening energy, you will solve challenges quickly and effortlessly instead of being bogged down. The best way to use this energy is to let go of worry and stay mindfully present as you continue to take action. Also, if something is not going to be in your best interests, no matter how badly you want it, antelope will quickly remove it so you can move toward what is truly meant for you. If something is taken away, be grateful and keep moving. This is not the time to sit. This is not the time to sit still, but to breathe deeply as you move forward with velocity. I love that. And eagle, card number 23, also upside down, so in protection, says, if you are, here's the eagle card one more time, eagle, who's wearing a crown. Yes, he is wearing a crown. Nice. The protection message says, if you are walking awkwardly and feel embarrassed, Eagle Spirit is here to tell you that it is only because right now you are meant to fly. Soar over the troubles that you have been feeling scared. Soar over the troubles that have you feeling scared and alone. See the big picture, yet retain your eagle eye for the details that help you claim your wisdom and courage. Or perhaps you are making yourself small for the sake of getting others to accept you. Now is not the time to be vulnerable and dependent, for you have the wings to fly on your own, and you need to do that at this time. There is no need to huddle in a shelter or even to seek out a flock to support you, for Eagle Spirit says you have tremendous wisdom and courage within. Let it arise so that you might soar proudly with the angels serving as the wind beneath your wings. From these heights, you can make the best and most powerful choices for the highest good of all. Wow. So even in protection, those are really powerful messages for us as a collective. Wow. All right. Well, I'm going to go back and take one last look at comments, and then I'm going to head out. Jacqueline says, yes, removing that. All that is not good for my highest good. Perfect. Marjorie says, Antelope has been me the last 3 to 4 years, but I allowed myself to stay stuck because of fear, thinking there wasn't enough time to make a wrong choice, so I made none. Gonna be a good replay. Ah, Marjorie, this is going to be great for you to contemplate. And Jacqueline says, woohoo. As I took it in, eyes closed, I felt myself drifting away. Awesome. All right, guys. I guess that is it for me today. I wish you all a wonderful weekend. Have fun, play, do some great intention setting with the new moon on Sunday. Remember that anything that triggers you is really just a call for more love and understanding and acceptance of yourself and more LOVE, love. Take care, everybody. Bye for now. See you on Monday.